Hi, good morning. It's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing PR and the editor of Punchline magazine. Welcome to the second series of Punchline Talks Business Briefers, where we go over the news and views of a panel of experts from Gloucestershire's business community. Today, I'm delighted to have Sam Holliday from the Federation of Small Business Development, and Development, and Gloucestershire from Gloucestershire, Bristol, Bath, and the rest of the universe. We've also got Andy Hogarth from Hazlewoods, a financial planner management for the company. We've got Neill from ProCook, Managing Director of ProCook, and Chris Price, Senior Partner at Tayntons. Welcome, guys, to Punchline Talk. Really, really great to see you. Thanks ever so much for joining us today. Anyway, right, we'll move swiftly on to the newspapers. Let's start with Sam, please. Sam, what's caught your eye in the national press?
Well, you would think that in the week of a lockdown, which has affected every single business and every single individual in this country, that would all be. But if everyone else has noticed from the papers, it's all about what's happening across the water. And we can't ignore it. It's absolutely huge. I mean, I've got the Times and various other ones, and it's astonishing. And in some ways, you know, I think about this before. The biggest surprise I've got is that any of us are surprised. How did we think this was going to end? I think being a politician, you've got to have a bit of ego about you, but this man takes it beyond belief. He's the ultimate narcissist, and he was never going to go down fighting. There's a string of a thought in America that you don't accept coming second. Coming second is first last, and he's the ultimate example of where you take that to an extreme. But what he doesn't realise is that it's the forces you unleash. There was people there. You know, there was somebody had a t-shirt mocking Auschwitz and things. The people on his side are just awful. And I know he's retracted it this morning, but it's shocking. And do you know what the contrary says? I know you mentioned that you had a new waistcoat for Christmas, Mark. Well, amongst my presents for Christmas was a Barack Obama autobiography. Oh, my word. To read his words and to read the intelligence of the guy. I mean, he's written a book. I bet Trump's never even read one. You know, and the contrast is astonishing. And Biden's coming in. And I remember someone saying to me, well, he's a bit boring, isn't he? And I thought, thank God for boring. That's what we need now. So I think the papers are full of it. And I think that's right. Some people might think, it's America. What's it got to do with us? But of course, it's got so much to do with us. America and our relation. I've got American relatives. It's very close to this country. And to see what's happened this week has been awful. It's just been dreadful. And to think that anything has taken COVID off the front page is remarkable. But it's everywhere, Mark. Okay, just very quickly, each individual one of you, should he go now, Trump? Chris?
Yeah, I think he should straight away. I think he needs to go. It's getting crazy over there. It's like a movie set.
Daniel?
Definitely. I think it's good that he did finally have some sort of conciliatory message today. But I think, yeah, too late, too little, too late.
Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. He either needs to do the honourable thing and step aside himself, or it needs to be forced upon him.
Well, I don't think the guy got an honourable bone in his body. Right, let's move on. Chris, what have you got for us, mate?
So my story is the one which, as Sam said, has been pushed off by what's happening on the top page, what's happening across the pond. But this is that at last, some will say, the government is now saying that travellers coming into the UK are going to have a negative test for coronavirus, which to my limited mind seems incredibly sensible. And I question why we haven't had that for some time, to be perfectly honest. The interesting point of that is, when are they going to bring it in? Some saying it's within the next 72 hours. And of course, if you read the papers, that says there's 100,000 Brits abroad at the present time who may therefore be panicking about getting back into the country. Yeah, I think it's an interesting development, one that will certainly be welcomed by a lot of people, but also probably criticised in that it's taken so long for what would seem a sensible decision to be made.
It's funny, isn't it? The government, it's. I don't know about you guys, but they just seem to want to sit on the fence a little bit too much. They want to please everybody. I think Boris just likes to be liked, and you can't do that in this sort of thing. Thanks, Chris. Daniel, what have you got for us, mate?
Obviously, my topic at the moment is really trading with Europe. We ship to France, Germany, and through Amazon, and DPD has now suspended its because really companies weren't ready. DPD wasn't really ready, so and I don't think DPD will be on their own. But there's thousands of parcels now being stuck at customs because the paperwork is not complete. And I think it's a bit of a mess. The tariff-free trade is clearly, it's only tariff-free if it originates in that country. And as we know, in a global economy, things don't originate in that country. So we're exporting goods, we've now got to pay tariffs on all exports to Europe. And I see John Lewis and a few others have now stopped shipping outside of the UK. So I think, the tariff-free trade is definitely a bit of a misnomer.
Right. And I was reading somewhere, a lot of companies, Belgian companies, French companies have stopped sending, doing internet shopping with this country because of all of it, really. They're waiting to see what happens. Yeah,
normally, obviously, as they used to, as you ship to a country outside of the EU, you wouldn't charge them VAT and then the customer would pay the VAT. But where we're trying to have this seamless shipping within Europe, that country would charge the VAT and then claim it back. It's quite a complex situation. But in theory, it's trying to do the best for the end consumer so that they're not having to pay VAT and tariffs as the goods come in between the UK and the rest of Europe. But it is very, very complicated.
Yeah, I bet it's going to be an absolute ball's ache moving forward. Andy, thanks ever so much, Daniel. And Andy, what have you got for us from the papers today, please?
I thought with so much doom and gloom around, so it's particularly regarding the economy, I thought I'd try and inject a little bit of positivity regarding the economy, which is great, which is in relation to the UK stock market. So UK stock market is projected to have one of its best opening weeks to a year on record. So at the moment, UK markets are up sort of around 5% for the week, which is great. You might think, well, what does that actually mean? Well, the UK stock market's a good barometer for what people think of the UK economy. So when it's growing, it tends to mean that the UK economy is perhaps growing, or the prospects for the UK economy are looking more positive. So it's a good sign that the UK stock market is growing, and in there'll be some big local employers as well. So the likes of Lloyd's, their share price has increased, St James's Place, Mears. So it's a good guide. What does it mean to you and I? Well, you might think it only affects those with investments. Well, let's not forget, a lot of us now have pensions through our employers. So when the UK stock market is growing, it tends to mean our pensions are also. So it's really positive, and I think it's a reflection of hopefully, fingers crossed, better times around the corner with the Brexit deal done, with hopefully the COVID vaccine rollout. That the prospects for later in the year are hopefully much better than what we've seen in the past, almost 12 months.
That's great, actually, positive news. Thank you very much, Andy. And as someone sitting here with shed loads of Lloyd shares, you've made my morning. And the only reason I've got so many is because Mrs. Owens works there and won that kind of rolling share thing scheme where you could buy them for 15p and then. Anyway, I've actually picked out a story that's very, very close to my heart today, which is, and I'm sure this will, fit us all. If you're paid by dividends, you're, running a limited company, paid by dividends. The Treasury is considering a £3 billion scheme to bail out a million small business owners excluded from COVID support. Now, we all know that if you're being paid dividends, you've got absolutely, jack, actually, from the government. It's been I've had this rolling argument with a number of our local MPs. Sunak just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it that if you're running a limited company, you're paying yourself dividends, at the end of the year, there might not be any money. But for some reason, they've got it in their heads that we've been trying to do, it's like a tax thing. I mean, Sam, you know more than me on this, not on the tax front, but, as in dealing with small size enterprises. What's your take on that?
It's been the biggest thing throughout the whole last 9 months, really, that so many businesses have had support. But ironically, I've talked to businesses that say that all my staff are furloughed, so they're okay, they're paying their bills. I've got nothing coming in. They could end up better off than I am, and then come back and there's no job. And we've been pushing for this from day one, really, that it's the one sector, and it's certainly all right. And I'm not going to knock Rishi Sunak. I think he's done a very good job. But he's comfortably the richest man in Parliament. But he still thinks that a lot of the people who run their own small business and pay themselves in dividends are doing it, like you say, as a bit of a tax dodge, and are earning lots and lots of money. And we put forward a plan along with the Forgotten Limited, as they're called, to sort of to try and find a way through this. And in comparison, we've spent £280 billion to bail out the economy. It's a very small percentage, but as I keep saying to people, it wouldn't be a giveaway, it's an investment. Because if you can save these businesses, then they can be part of the recovery. They can bring the taxes in. But if employer A has got no money, all his staff are probably thinking at home now, I'm on furlough, that's fine, I'll go back to my job when it ends. If he's bankrupt, they've got no job to go back to. So it's a sensible thing to do. And I do hope that Rishi Sunak listens. That's really encouraging, because we've been banging on the door, as are so many people, for so long now. And I think that works, by the way. The people like yourself talking to MPs, people like ourselves talking to MPs, they're hearing it all the time, and they're going back to Westminster and saying to Rishi, you know, we've got to do something about it. And he's surprised us a few times. So I'm hopefully he'll bring out this last surprise.
Well, I'll tell you, just as he says here, this is the Sun article in the Sun. It says Directors' Income Support Scheme would pay grants of up to $7,500 to cover 3 months to be open for those earning under 50 grand. So I'll definitely be in that camp. Right.
It's interesting. My brother is in Thailand at the moment. Spends a lot of time in Thailand, and obviously he's spending all of his time in Thailand at the moment because he can't actually go anywhere. And but it's amazing how much the Thai news refers to Britain in a positive manner, right? Compared to the UK press. So he would have a mix between the UK watching UK news and Thai news, and you know they look at how many people we've vaccinated, we've tested more than any other country per million. You know the support that we have given in the furlough scheme and for businesses. They look at the UK as in a completely different way to the UK press. It is very interesting.
But isn't that a problem with our UK press? I mean, you watch the Prime Minister's briefing, and they're so aggressive, so negative. So I keep saying this: if we had Dunkirk now and we had our UK press reporting on it, we'd all be buggered. They really would. So
where are all the boats? Why aren't you sending more boats?
There's too many boats. You've got too many boats now.
Yeah,
it would be an absolute nightmare. Goodness gracious.
We have done a lot right, but I mean, clearly it's a dreadful situation. But
it is, but I don't think it's helped by our national media, unfortunately.
No.
But there you go. No. But while we've got you on there, Daniel, let's talk about your business, if that's okay. So tell us a little bit about ProCook, and what type of Christmas have you had? What's it been like in the retail sector?
It has been chaotic. Sort of open 1 minute, close the next. We had 48 stores open from the 2nd of December, I think, to about the 12th, when we had local lockdowns. And obviously they're all closed again. Luckily for us, we're sort of roughly half and half retail and online. So we have fared much better than a lot of businesses. But yeah, I mean, Christmas on the whole was good because we did get, I mean, for us, because we sell cookware, it predominantly is a personal purchase. We do get a little bit of gifting, but our big week or 2 weeks is actually post Christmas, where people go out into the sales and replace their cookware or replace their table set. But it's been good, you know. I definitely, you know, touch wood and say I'm in a lot better position than a lot of people. But yeah, no stores open at the moment. Struggling to ship to Europe, but yeah, we're just. I mean, I suppose we're just trying to keep as nimble as possible and do whatever is possible. I mean, we had huge problems. We just had 35 containers of stock that we should have had next week, where the boat now, because we've still got all, I mean, it's out of the news really, but where the boat hasn't docked in the UK because of port problems. So, you know, when we will get that stock, I just simply don't know. And it's a lot of stock. We had another one, a repeat really. 27 containers should have come in on the 26th of November. We're just getting that stock now. So it's the port situation is shocking. And I don't see the Brexit, that this isn't going to help.
So if you've got 27 containers waiting, surely people have ordered that stuff, or is it? Yes, they're just waiting for their order still.
Yeah, we have a lot of people waiting. Luckily, we don't put it on the site until it's sort of 3 or 4 days away from us being able to ship it. So we mitigate that situation. But if you don't, I mean, the ones that should have come in next week, we didn't find out until virtually we were expecting it to dock. And they said, no, we're going to Rotterdam. And gets offloaded in Rotterdam and either gets on a truck or gets on a little smaller feeder ship to come to the UK. So it can take, you just don't, it's out of your hands then.
Okay, last question for you, mate, is what is your best-selling product this Christmas?
We launched, we're always launching things, but tabletop, we've gone heavily into tabletop as a business because we felt,
I'm sorry, mate. I don't know what tabletop is. I'm very sorry.
dinnerware, cutlery, glasses, all those things for eating and drinking. So yes, yeah.
I just want to note, by the way, that nobody else asked you that question. Okay.
All thinking it.
So has that worked well then, Daniel?
Really, really well. I think there's just a lot. I think with the demise of department stores, there's not many places to buy nice tabletop items, tableware. So,
I love the store in the Keys, by the way, and I've got to say your staff are fabulous. We were in there just before Christmas, and they were so nice and so polite, and it's a brilliant store. It's great for the kids.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We work. I mean, for us, if you're going to have a store, then you've got to make it. You've got to have that experiential shopping experience where we're giving you great advice, and it's a nice place to come and shop.
Friendly.
I think that's the difference between retailers who are doing well and retailers who aren't. There's still too many bad examples of, walking into shops and sales assistants on the phone behind the counter. I mean, we wouldn't, we've got, our team are brilliant. And, as you say, I would hope that every time you walk in, that would be the experience you get.
I think Sorry.
So I think you're so right with that, Daniel, especially given the climate we live in with the Amazon. I can click an order now and I can have it in a few hours' time or tomorrow. To make people get off their sofa and get into towns and shops, you've got to make it an experience. You've got to make it a pleasurable experience. And hopefully some of that will come out of the back of this without having been able to go out to shops. Hopefully there's some pent-up demand to get back into stores.
It was interesting when the shops did reopen. We did get quite a few bounce. So we were up on the previous year because I think you're right. People were almost, a bit stir crazy and wanted to get out and do shop and do normal things. So, I think, but it is, if you're struggling, having the right stock and that, it's a very difficult situation. I mean, we're very fortunate. We're in a very fortunate position.
Yes. I mean, fair play to you, mate, for carrying on and doing that shop in the Keys as well. And I'm sure the businesses will come back. It's whether the businesses are going to be there to come back to. The customers will come back. Well, will the businesses actually be there? Will the retail be there? Will Debenhams be there? Goodness knows. We're going to move on a little bit now. We'll go over to Chris. Chris, thanks so much for being a little bit patient as well. Now, as a senior partner at Tayntons, let's be honest, mate, you deal with matrimonial law, and during Christmas, normal time, Christmas, there's an awful lot of breakups, relationships. Goodness, the third lockdown. What's the sort of, I know you can't talk individual clients and stuff, but what type of, how bad is it getting there?
Well, it's an interesting one. I mean, you'll have seen one of the exceptions in terms of the lockdown is to escape domestic abuse. The government have actually spelt that out as one of the reasons why you don't have to be staying at home. And I think what we are actually seeing, and I think where the big concern is that with this third time around, as it were, more and more, we're going to be seeing some serious cases of domestic violence or domestic abuse. And that's not necessarily physical, that can be verbal, emotional, and, everyone is very mentally strained in terms of what's going on. So certainly as far as a practice, we're expecting to see far more inquiries and concerns as far as that is concerned. Added to that, with any lockdown, there is also, when you've had separated families, it's parents seeing children and the logistics of that. One parent may be particularly twitched by COVID, very concerned, want to throw protective arms over their child and really feel, look, not only do I not want them to go to school, but actually them going out for anything from my perspective is a concern. So, we are seeing an increase in terms of inquiries there as well. It's definitely an interesting time, again, as far as the practice is concerned. And using Daniel's phrase, really, being as nimble as possible is what we're trying to do in terms of the way that we're dealing with things, with staff working from home, but still being accessible. Our inquiries are definitely up, I would say, in terms of where they were this time last year, website inquiries, telephone inquiries. So it's a developing time, I think, as far as that area of law is concerned in terms of what's going to happen.
Now, the family law, it's obviously moved on Zoom. How are you finding that transition? And do you think it actually stay like this? Is this the way forward?
I think it probably will. I think it will, because it's far more efficient. The court system for some time, and lawyers are often criticised for being inefficient. And when I look back at my practice 12 months ago, there was a lot of waiting around, waiting for court hearings to take place, meetings, waiting for meetings, travelling to meetings, travelling from meetings. Now, with Zoom, that's all disappeared. In fact, straight after this meeting with you today, I'll be going straight into another one, which previously I would have had to probably scheduled for another 45 minutes on to make that journey there. So, yeah, I think it probably will. And I think that will be for two reasons. Firstly, from the solicitors firm's perspective, in terms of it's a more efficient way for them to work, but also from the client's perspective. You no longer have to travel to your solicitor's office, park your car, find a place to park, which in Gloucester, as we know, can be problematic at times. Wait for the solicitor to be available and then travel back out. It can be a far more seamless and straightforward transaction, really. So, yeah, I think it's going to stay that way. I think that, as I've said before, COVID has definitely brought some progress. It's forced innovation on lots of firms. And I think that's going to stay.
Does that mean you're going to keep that big, massive offices in Clarence Street of yours?
Well, who knows? I mean, it's certainly a large bit of real estate. Yeah, absolutely. Do we need as big an office? Well, at the moment, we probably do, to an extent, that those staff that are coming in on a limited number, we want them to social distance as far as possible. But if we look at the buzzwords that were around previously of hot desking, etc., and with more fee earners working from home, we certainly want to be an employer that is offering the opportunity for our staff to work from home. Then big question marks on probably any business is now going to be looking at the size real estate they've got and think, do we need something this big? And in our commercial practice, that's definitely what we're seeing. Companies are starting to think, I'm not too sure with my lease renewal coming up or with me looking for new premises that actually what I thought I needed, I now necessarily do need moving forward in this new world.
I think from an employment point of view, it's, we've now moved so that we don't envisage people ever coming back into the office in the same way. And we've said that 10 till 4 is people's core hours. So Monday to Friday, 10 till 4, which is 27 and a half hours with their break. And then the other 10 hours, we've said, fit it around your home plan. So that, and it's meant that we can employ people from further afield. We can employ different type of people who previously would have thought they're out of the employment market, but who can do 10 till 4 and then do, sometime later in the evening or half a day at the weekend or whatever. So
yeah.
I think
I was going to say there's 2 points from that, Daniel. I mean, the first one is I'm aware of some very big employers locally who've already said to staff, look, when COVID is over, we're only going to be expecting you to be in the office for about 40% of the time. Now, these were firms that would have expected their staff to be there 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is Andy, I've sat through some presentations with Hazlewoods and Barclays joint presentations before, where they've said, you look at the younger employee that is coming through, for them, there's a massive balance between quality of life and putting in the hours. And that flexibility, which you were talking about there, Dan, where basically, you know, these people can maybe go to the gym in their lunch hour for an extended period, or go to the gym after work for an extended period, but still have that flexibility to fit the work in around. I think we're going to see a massive sea change in relation to that. And again, it enables us as an employer in Gloucester to really be saying to any prospective employees, whether they're in Cardiff, Birmingham, Bristol, even London, look, you can work for us, because remotely, you know, we don't necessarily have to be concerned about our employees being able to travel in the office regularly.
Which brings us back actually over to Andy. Obviously, Andy, you've got that massive building in Hazlewoods, just outside Staverton. You know, is everyone working remotely, or you know, how are you finding things?
Yeah, pretty much. It's really interesting. I'd pretty much echo much of what Chris said. So Hazlewoods, as an employer, we've got the office in Staverton. We've also got an office in Cheltenham, and over the past number of years, we've seen phenomenal growth in employees, and we placed quite a significant extension on the building in Staverton, and we've already filled that. And where we were going to go pre-COVID in terms of another office or extending existing offices, that may have materialised, but all of this, I think, may change things. So at the moment, bar some skeleton staffing just to deal with post in and out, everyone is working from home, and it's worked really well. I mean, our IT department's done a fantastic job with everything the past 12 months or so, and clients have commented, clients have said we've seen very little, if anything, the service has improved in some ways, because again, to pick up on Chris's point, whereas before we had an hour and a half traveling to a meeting, and you'd sort of book your diary out for half a day for perhaps an hour-long meeting, that's not the case anymore. You can jump on a Zoom meeting and also make it in some ways more personal. So where previously you'd have a phone call to a client, the option now to have a FaceTime, which wasn't part of our culture 12, 18 months ago. It's almost a done thing now. It's almost strange to have a normal phone call. You'll do a FaceTime or a Zoom meeting. And again, dogs walking around in the background, children interrupting. Again, I think in some ways it makes it a more personal service. And, you know, rewind the clock 12, 18 months, I certainly wouldn't have ever have thought that. So no, I think it is here to stay. For us, whether there'll be a set percentage of time in the office, set time at home, I guess that's to be decided when all of this is sorted. But no, I can't see a scenario where we go back to how we were pre-COVID.
Okay, thanks, Andy. We're going to wrap up very, very quickly. Sam, I'm just going to bring you back in to, we've got 30 seconds left. Goodness gracious, small businesses and the small business community moving forward for 2021. Well, what do you want to say?
Well, it's a fascinating conversation, that, by the way, really is. And the one thing I would just say, by the way, is that there's 5 of us here, I think all clearly love our job and love what we do. I think the biggest problem for the home working is for those that have got dead-end jobs. I mean, my wife said that she used to work in a job which she didn't like much, but going there and being around the people there is what got her there every day. So so there's lots of things to think about, but it's a fascinating conversation. But yeah, as far as small businesses go, well, I think we can come back to what Danny was saying earlier about positivity. And there's a lovely image in the Times there of a lady getting a vaccine. That is the positivity. When we went into the lockdown last time, we had nothing to look forward to. We didn't know when it was going to end. Businesses were going under, but now we can see the end. And to give Britain credit, yes, you're right. You're all right, actually. Some of the things that have done wrong, but we've done a lot right as well in terms of the economic support for business. But 300 times more vaccinations than France. 4 times more than Germany, who we always look to, let's be honest, has been the efficient guys. I think if the vaccine is the magic pill, it really is. And that is, I think if businesses, this is the message that we're giving to government, just give us that extra bit of support now to get us through this bit, get the vaccine, and 2021 could be great again. So I'm trying to stay as positive as I can. Not easy at times, but you just got to, because businesses are like that. We've just got to be as positive as we can.
And I think that's a great way to wrap up today. Thank you ever so much for joining Punchline Talks. We'll be back next week. Thanks, guys. See you soon. Please be safe.